You, American RX back at it for a Grand Slam delivery. Yeah, and this one is about the origins of birth certificate and the fact that it was called a settlement certificate before it was known as a birth certificate. Now I see this on a site, Escapist blog. Uh, it was a blog, but I guess they got the information from somewhere, from some source. I had this information for quite a while. I just remembered it and I wanted to share it with you guys. But anyway, let's get to it. Um yeah, so a settlement certificate, also known as a birth certificate, since 1837. So 1837, that's when they changed it from a settlement certificate to what is known as a birth certificate. Okay, that was not so long ago, okay? It's an official document issued to validly recorded poor paupers, granting them certain basic rights and entitlements to benefits in exchange for recognition of their status as being owned as property and lawful slaves. That's funny, man. Also known as indentured servants. My bad, man. I want to laugh, man. I will laugh, man, because if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry. Shit is serious, but it's funny at the same time. Also known as indentured servants and bondsmen. A settlement, therefore, is equivalent to a voluntary slave plantation. Now, remember when I was telling you about the income in the system and how within that system they like they had to report, you know, our people had to report to their plantations or their workstations. Yeah, this is pretty much, where this whole thing got incorporated into our society over here. This is not our style, man. You know what I'm saying? This is foreign to our people of the Americas, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's get to it. Origins of the settlement certificates. Under King Henry VIII of England and his Venetian Magyar advisors, the first poor laws were promulgated around 1535, coinciding with the first official mandate requiring uniform record keeping by all Church of England parishes of birth, deaths, and marriages. Now, when we are doing our genealogy and you see the church have, the church was the keeper of the records first. Because when I'm doing my genealogy and I see that's where I gotta go to from, um, from the where the church kept the records, and I'm saying, and the parishes, whatever that parish was, they had to go to that main office in the parish to record or keep, a birth or a death. You know what I'm saying? So this is this is a colonial system, okay? This is not our system, okay? All right. The poor were considered the responsibility of the church, including ensuring they had ample work and did not starve to death, as they were considered by default the property of the church. Now, through your baptism, you become property of the church. And yes, at some point we are always under that spell too. Not so long ago, I got I was in the church myself. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was the right thing, because you see your parents doing it too, growing up. While growing up, you see your parents going to church. Well, my mom particularly, though, I'm saying not so much my pops, my mother really, but they inherit that mindset from the colonial um, education system. You know what I'm saying? The church. Under Queen Elizabeth I of England, a set of measures which were introduced, which had the effect of accelerating the disenfranchisement of land peasants into landless paupers and the erection of Cottages Act. We gotta go see what the act is about. Okay, Cottages Act. Peasants required local parish permission to erect dwellings, whereas before the erection of a dwelling by a land peasant on their lord's land was considered a right. As a result, the ranks of the landless poor or paupers swelled. Now, in your Bible, when you talk about Lord, I'm saying, when he's talking about Lord in the Bible, it's really talking about a landlord or a, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's saying. Okay? You gotta put the pieces together, man. We were indoctrinated, okay? We got bamboozled, alright? All of us got bamboozled, man. Under Queen Elizabeth I of England, the laws concerning administration and care of the poor were refined through the Poor Law. We've got to go look that up as well. 1601, which introduced a basic set of rights for the poor, as well as the introduction of 2 overseers of the poor, guardian, in each parish, elected at Easter and funded through the first levy tax through local rates, local council taxes, on property owned by owning ratepayers. Under Charles II of England, the concept of settlement as plantations of working poor controlled by the Church of England was further refined through the Settlement Act 1662 and Poor Relief Act 1662. Yes, this is what I have right here, the Poor Relief Act. Okay, so we're going to slide over here. Okay, Poor Relief Act 1662 was an act of the Cavalier Parliament of England. It was an act for better relief of the poor to this kingdom, and is also known as Settlement Act of the Settlement and Removal Act. And purpose of the act was to establish the parish to which a person belonged, i.e. his or her place of settlement, and hence clarify which parish was responsible for him should he become in need of poor relief, chargeable to the parish poor rates. This was the first occasion when a document proving domicile became statutory. These were called settlement certificates. Okay? So, this is where the whole concept of birth certificate came from, people, okay? So that's how this whole thing came up with the parishes, because before the parishes, it was just a land, right? And then they have precincts, and then they have parishes. So for every precinct, they had a church. That's how they set up on the island. If you look on the older maps of the island, they had the precincts first, then the parishes, and then they got counties, right? They passed an act called the Parish and County Act in 1867. That was not too long ago as well. They created the parishes from the precincts. That's before they, grant the Jamaica Crown Trust over to the commissioner as the trustee to administer the trust to take the land from the people, the original people of the land. Well, the people got bamboozled into church, okay? And this miseducation of their bloodline, their history, you know what I'm saying? So let me see now. Including for the first time the issuance of settlement certificates equivalent to birth certificate, passport, and social security rolled into one document. A child's birthplace was its place of settlement, and its mother had a settlement certificate from some other parish stating that the unborn child was included on the certificate. However, from the age of 7 upwards, the child could have been apprenticed and gained and set a settlement for itself through called indentured service or voluntary slavery. Most of us sign up for a job now, right? That's voluntary slavery, man. Don't be fooled, man. I'm just giving you the real, man, the real spill. All right, this is the raw information. Also, the child could have obtained a settlement for itself by service by the time it was 16. So, if you notice, 7 years was like that grace period, right? It's always 7 years. Indentured contracts last 7 years, right? Depending on the nature of the contract, you know what I'm saying? Under the reforms of the Settlement Act 1662 and Poor Relief Act 1662, no one was allowed to move from town to town without appropriate settlement certificate. Now, that's like your birth certificate and your driver's license, right? They're giving you permission to go from point A to point B, right? The subjects, right? They presume you're subjects, right? If a person entered a parish in which he or she did not have official settlement and seemed like to become chargeable to the new parish, then an examination would be made by the justices or parish overseers. From this examination on oath, the justices would determine if the person had means to sustain himself. The results of the examination were documented in an examination paper. As a result, the examination, the intruder would then either be allowed to stay or would be removed by means of what is known as removal order, the origins of the modern equivalent of eviction and removal notice when a sheriff removes people from their home. So all you people with your mortgages, myself included, I'm looking into, dealing with this whole mortgage situation myself. But I'm on it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is what it's really saying. But it also goes to people like our people too on the islands when they come to the mainland and they're trying to give us green cards, okay? So they have like a removal proceedings, right? Where they remove you based on your settlement certificate. Because if you admit that you are that person on that settlement certificate, then you are subject to the terms and conditions of that trust that was set up for your settlement, all right? Eviction and removal notice to sheriff. According to the various settlement acts from 17th century onwards until the introduction of birth certificates, the issue of a settlement certificate was considered a privilege, not a right. So I'm saying, privilege. Here you go, your privileges. You want privileges, man? Not a right. If a peasant wanted to move, the home parish could choose to issue a settlement certificate, which then effectively became an indemnity insurance to the new parish of the pauper was unable to earn a living. A settlement certificate was only valid if it bore the seals of the overseers of both parishes and that of the local justices and was not transferable. This is the same model of modern passports for citizens listed P. So what they're saying, if your passport have P in it, it's pretty much it's saying you're pauper. But they try to cover it up now that they try to say personal now. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you have to address that, you know what I'm saying? Due to the increase in the number of poor in 1723, a new law has passed called the Workhouse Test Act 1723, in which those who wish to claim benefits and relief as poor now had to enter a workhouse, being essentially a prison for men, women, and children to perform some set of work to ensure that all poor were accounted and could be identified. New laws were also introduced to force the paupers to wear a P on their right shoulders as mark of their status. This is both the origin of P still placed as a mark on modern passports, other official documents, and the P worn by prisoners from 20th century. Beginning of the 1773, with the Enclosure Act 1773. Take notes, people. These acts, you gotta look them up. Followed by Enclosure Consolidation Act, 1801. English Parliament effectively privatized massive amounts of common land for the benefit of a few, causing huge numbers of land peasants to become landless paupers, therefore in need of parish assistance. The Enclosure Act, or the foundation of land title, is as it's known today. Now, also your 1666 Sestake v. Trust Act, that also correlates with this, okay? Bear in mind, all right? Because of the deliberate legal theft of land under parliamentary enclosure, laws of the 18th and early 19th century, the number of paupers dramatically increased. This led to the most awful and cruel laws being introduced to deliver to an elite few. The slave labor force need for an industrial revolution through the Poor Law Amendment Act, which effectively stated that poor could not receive any benefit unless they were constantly employed as workhouse prisons in a workhouse prison. Thus, despite international treaties against slavery, the very word slavery being wage slavery or lawful slavery was born whereby men, women, and children lived in terrible conditions and were worked to death. Okay? Beginning in 1834, a number of historic changes were introduced to the record keeping of birth, death, and marriages, issuance of documents, and management of the poor. In 1834, British Parliament introduced Poor Law Amendment Act, which reorganized Church of England parishes into unions, which would then